Dead Island Riptide is not leaps and bounds above its predecessor. The changes made are, in essence, tiny, but in practice, potentially massive. This game is not going to hit your emotional core. You will likely never stop in awe, and the story, well, it's about as good as Land of the Dead, meaning it's not bad, but certainly not Dawn of the Dead. If you enjoyed the first Dead Island, then you'll feel right at home. The combat has remained largely unchanged, save for the addition of a few new weapons. Zombies still swarm, all your favorite, or least favorite, infected are back, but the leveling system seems to have been changed, as I was gaining levels much more frequently than in the original, hitting level 50 within a 15-hour period without the XP booster. Does the easy leveling influence the enjoyment of Dead Island? Most certainly, as does the almost frivolous nature of money. A simple change to the way you search bags, namely removing the duck animation, means you can rummage through other people's things much more quickly. This also means that money, which was almost pointless anyway, is now even more abundant. But why are these things important? Because it allows you to focus on the part of Dead Island that is really fun, the combat. You no longer have to worry about flat out losing a weapon because you just can't afford to repair it. You are also constantly being rewarded with a new skill to use, so that dopamine hit is never far off and rarely interrupted by artificial difficulty. So the combat is fun, you get it. But what about the rest of the game? Well, that's a little bit different. There are moments of inspiration, and there are moments of unenthused blandness. The main story is a lot like your average B-movie. Not bad, but not great. There's a kernel of something interesting there, but none of the characters are fleshed out enough to really make you care. The side quests also vary from, hey, that's pretty cool, to, haven't I done this before? With only a few varying from the go get me this thing style of adventure. Beyond the side quests are what seem to be totally vestigial houses and things to explore. And not your typical bungalow that you just find roaming about, but new areas, complete with a loading screen and everything. The only thing these places are good for, besides a diversion from the story, is collecting rarer loot. This rare loot helps you upgrade your NPC partners and help you defend your home from the new siege quests. Several times throughout the campaign, you will be placed in a siege mission, where you must hold your position until a meter drains out. You can fortify the area by placing fences, using turrets, placing mines, and upgrading your NPC character's equipment. These siege missions can be a ton of fun, but can also be a mediocre kicking fest. The NPCs are constantly getting caught in grapples by the zombies and will very rarely help out one another. If you upgrade your buddies, they'll get caught less, but no upgrades exist for their brains, which are apparently only focused on themselves. It's kind of luck of the draw whether or not you'll have fun with these parts, but I found that focusing on crowd control rather than the biggest zombie kept everyone alive much more efficiently. One of the hardest things to do when talking about Riptide is to not repeat yourself. There's just not that much to talk about. It's so like the original game that you could honestly copy and paste reviews from one to the other. It doesn't mean that Dead Island Riptide is a bad game, because it's not bad, it's just kind of bland. There are improvements over the first game that are enough to make Riptide better overall, but if you did not enjoy the first game at all, they're not vast enough to change that. Still, Dead Island 1 and Riptide are unique in their own way, and if you can take a breath and just enjoy a game for what it is, not what it should be, then Riptide has some fun and a plethora of mediocre to pretty good content to offer you. That's why Dead Island Riptide gets a 7.5 out of 10.